This is Lisa Sturgis, and I work with the Early Childhood Investment Corporation, and specifically with a program called DELC, Detroit's Early Learning Coaching Initiative. And I'm happy to be moderating this panel with four awesome ladies who are here to share their experiences around small business management. I'm going to allow them the opportunity to introduce themselves. I'll start with Jamie, and then we'll go from there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Odester. I, too, am a wonderful participant of early childhood in education. That's a mouthful. I work for First Children's Finance, and I, too, support all of the early initiatives that are here in the city of Detroit, as well as the state of Michigan, and specifically working with providers and business owners, making sure that they're going to be sustainable and profitable. So, good evening, everyone.
How about Latonya?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Latonya Glover, and I am a home provider. I am a group provider. I'm licensed for 12 children. I'm excited to be here tonight to just share about some of my experiences. I'm proud to be a provider providing care for children. I'm a 5-star rated child care home, so I'm proud of that. And I'm just working to do everything I can to maintain during this pandemic.
Lorna?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lorna Mars. I'm a coach with the Detroit Early Learning Coaching Initiative program, which is a part of ECIC as well.
Thank you. And Lakeisha.
Hi, guys. I am Lakeisha Neal, licensed home daycare provider located in Detroit, Michigan, servicing basically 95% low-income families, again, here in Detroit.
Great. Thank you. So I think to start us off, the question that I'd like to ask you is just if you would like to share for Latonya and Lakeisha, the impact of COVID on your program. And then for Lorna and Jamie, if you could share the impact that you've seen on programs as you've provided supports to them. I will let Jamie go first again. I promise not to continue to pick on you first, Jamie, after this.
Of course. So the question was, how have I seen how COVID has been affecting or providing support to early child care?
Yeah.
I'd say at the initial outcome of COVID in March, it was initially just a shock, just because, having providers actually wonder whether or not closing for a week or so was doable, absolutely. But when it started getting past the March and going into the April-May mark, then panic set in. And by June, July, it was reality that this was going to be the long haul. And then really having candid conversations with providers like Latonya and really just running through your numbers and finding out, okay, how long can I really do this? Is this really viable for my business? Do I need to stay open? Do I need to start making some remedies of possibly closing or shifting my entire business model to be something different than what it is? So it became a real reality of what education would have to look like going into 2021, because here we are at the end of 2020. So the support ended up being more of a business model support than it was for how it has been in the past, which is more programmatic.
Thank you. Latonya, what would you like to add to that? Or how would you describe your own experience?
Definitely. I think that my experience, I can't describe it as unique, but right on the day of the shutdown, I was in the process of transitioning my family home to a group. So the day that I received my new license, I was, planning to double my business and to be able to provide care for double the amount of families and to go from that to 0. And that was a year's worth of planning. So it was hard, but it made me realize, that I, as well as the families that I serve and the people that I have in my circle, people like Jamie and people from other organizations that supported me, that we are resilient and that you have to be able to pivot in order to function and to maintain. And that may look like something different than I initially thought. So it taught me to have to reimagine what care looks like during a pandemic.
I loved the word that you used, resilient. It just feels like as we go on, resilient is a great word. Lorna, how would you respond to that question?
To that question, it was just shocking for me and shocking for my providers. this just came out of nowhere. And I was coaching 23 providers, and everything was popping, everything was just going like a well-oiled machine. And all of a sudden it came to an abrupt stop. And I was saying, okay, what can I do? I started talking to my providers, calling them, seeing what are they doing? What can we do? They were just like frozen in time. And it's like the more I talk with them, the more they started coming out of their shell and then started focusing on their business. And it's like, okay, what am I gonna do? I don't have any kids. I'm here by myself. I only had one provider that actually was serving essential workers. She was the only one. I had another one that she actually closed. This was a home provider. She said, I don't know what this thing is. I don't want to bring this into my home. And I am terrified. I am closing. I'm shutting it down. And a matter of fact, she's still closed because she's still scared. Providers, they went into shock because they didn't have the money to sustain their businesses. So of course, that was a big, big part of it. So we started looking to see, well, how much money would it take for you to run your business or to pay your bills? And we started polling and talking to them and doing questionnaires with different providers. And we came up with different figures, and we started, with the state, we started moving forward with that, but they're still hurting. And as I'm sure you have questions leading up to this part as to what's going on right now.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lorna.
Okay.
Lakeisha, what about you? What would you like to share about that impact on COVID?
During the beginning of COVID, of course, it was a scare for everyone. And like Ms. Marcia spoke on the other providers, I had to make a, decision. Do I stay open to one, continue operation to support the communities, the families and the children, or do I concentrate on myself and my family? So I end up closing down for a few months. I reopened the beginning of July. And with reopening, it was just as scary because there were so many rules, regulations, guidelines that I had to follow, adhere to, learn all at once, the trainings, everything just kind of bombarded you, at one time. However, I did reopen. Thus far, everyone has been safe. None of my families have been affected by or with COVID. It's challenging because you have to decipher, do I care for my community or do I care for my own family? But when funds get low, you got to go back to work, just as my parents needed to go to work as well. So the phone calls were steady coming in. When are you going to reopen? Do you know anyone that's open? So I just, made that decision to reopen, and that's where I am today.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if I could follow up that question with another one, and just so here we are now. What is the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? And Lakeisha, can I just put you back on right now and have you follow up yours, and then I'll go back around?
Absolutely. So the biggest challenge, again, now with the numbers are rising again. So we're back at square one. Do I stay open? Do I close down? I am very dedicated to what I do. This is my 17th year servicing children and their families. So to just shut down and leave, just to shut the door in my family's faces is not, ideal. But I have an 8-year-old son and I have an 18-year-old son as well, and I'm providing in my home. So Ms. Mars and I talk about this all the time. My learning environment is my entire lower level of my home. So just this week, I bought a dining room set to eat at. Prior to, my family and I were eating at the children's table because that's just what happened. But, with the germs and the different families, I have 12 children. I'm 24 hours. So I'm working 19 hours a day, sometimes 6 and 7 days per week, so to have to eat, at the kid size table was a challenge for my family. So the challenge, just keeping the I don't want to call it a germ, the virus, outside. So now with the numbers rising again, I am faced with, again, do I stay open or do I close? That's my biggest challenge.
Yeah, the decision every day, every week.
Yeah.
Thank you. Latonya, what about you?
That's just, when you think about that question, the biggest challenge, it's a circle. It's a never ending circle. Do I stay open? Do I close? How does that affect me financially? If I stay open, how does that affect me mentally? How does that affect my health? I think it's all a challenge, and it's all a big challenge. It's hard to classify that one thing, because my biggest challenge that I named today, if I act on that, the results of that become my biggest challenge tomorrow. So because it's so unprecedented, this isn't something that any of us have ever done before. Everything is a challenge. Like Ms. Neal said, I, along with Lakeisha, I have 4 children of my own. So you have to decide, when we say families first, whose family are we putting first? I think, the biggest challenge is just the day-to-day change. There's nothing consistent. There's nothing that remains the same. We just received 2 days ago updated rules for childcare providers for licensing. So our new normal of last week now changes again this week. So we have to continue to pivot. We have to continue to be resilient. So to be frank and honest, it's all a challenge. It's all a challenge. There is no one biggest challenge. COVID is the biggest challenge, and the ripple effect that it causes. The ripples don't end.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I can only imagine that I think of it as a domino effect, one decision. And as you're talking, I can only imagine that it's hard to guess all of the next steps and how that might impact you. So thank you for sharing that. I think the next question that I have is for all 4 panelists, and it's one that is near and dear to my heart. I think of, and what I've seen during COVID is really strong women who own their own childcare businesses, fighting to keep their programs open, making the tough decisions, and trying to make sure that those are the best decisions, as you have said, for your family, but also for your business. I've seen some really unique opportunities for programs that have pivoted to support families in new ways. And so I'm wondering if, for Latonya and Lakeisha, if they could share some things that they have done to pivot during this time, and for Lorna and Jamie to share some things that they have seen programs do really to pivot, to be able to not only support their business, but to support the families and children. Lorna, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Well, I have seen providers, they have extended their hours. Some of them have partnered with early Head Start programs, Grade Start readiness programs. Some of them are even renting out their buildings. So there are a lot of things that they're doing right now. Like I said, just trying to stay afloat with the extended hours. You listen to Lakeisha even extended her hours, 24 hours, and they're also facilitating the school agers. A lot of them are working with school agers, and that's another piece of the puzzle, because are they equipped to work with school agers? Do they have the space to work with school agers? I heard a few of them said, you know what? I don't know any math. I can't teach them any math. I don't know what to do with that. So there's so many things that they're doing right now to facilitate families, to help working families, and kudos to our home providers, to our center providers for bending over backwards to accommodate families.
Thanks, Lorna. Jamie, what have you seen in the work that you've been doing? What kind of pivots have you seen?
Pretty much everything that Lorna said, on top of they're also becoming the community source. So I've seen everything from diapers and food and making sure that children are being fed. I've seen everything from making sure parents are getting additional support that they need when it comes to just being able to talk to someone about this, because again, COVID isn't just about the educational aspect, it's also about the mental aspect. So I've seen them become now counselors for parents, even though they were doing that before, but now it's in a different realm. I've seen them take on more of the educational role where, like Ms. Lorna said, they're also becoming, I think Ms. Brandy actually shared this with me before, they're creating vision boards and the other mechanisms so they can, so the children can learn in a more positive way. So getting them prepared for the school-age children as well as the pre-K kids. So it's almost like becoming the most creative educator that you can possibly be. I've seen a lot of that, but then they've also become the community resource that they've always been, but now it's stepped up to a whole nother level because they're the ones that are open and everybody knows it. And they know that they're resilient and resourceful. So they're going to them first to find out what's available. So whether it's PPE stuff, whether it's material, whether it's something that's going wrong with their schools, they're going to them first to ask them what's really happening and where can I find information? Where can I find materials? What do you know about this? How do I homeschool better? As a parent, they're becoming now the real intricate person for families, which is really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Lakeisha, how about you? How have you pivoted? I know you mentioned the hours. Tell us a little bit about how you've made choices to pivot your business during this time.
Including the hours. That's the biggest challenge. And also trying to find support. It's really hard to find someone to come into the daycare, to help me. Again, I have my 6 children at one time, although I still need someone to, find different resources for additional PPE items. And I have a lot of volunteers that support me in the community. And my family members, with bringing the face mask and the alcohol and, the sanitizing needs. Aside of that, I am trying to figure out, like with the bedding, I'm having an issue with bedding because the cost of cot sheets, they're very expensive. Although I have 12 cots, but I don't have a space in my home to fit 12 cots. So again, to go back with the staffing, they're afraid to come in, So what I'm doing now is putting together, I'm trying to see which of my parents have to be tested at work. So those are the parents that I'm considering keeping, because if the parents have to be tested to go to work, then I know that the family, is safe. A lot of employers don't, test their, staff. They only, they have to, to just do the temperature check and the checklist. So right now I'm just trying to see, where and which families, I want to stay with. So I'm doing various things, mealtime, trying to separate the kids. I have so many different seating areas. I've changed the environment so many times to, try to keep the kids away from each other as much as possible. Although we understand what's going on, the children, they're not aware. So Ms. Mars and I talk a lot about, the environment. So I tried so many different strategies with the toys. I had to put a lot of the toys away because a lot of them were wooden, so you can't really clean them and soak them as much as you can, with other things. The smaller children with the, with the hands in their mouths and so on and so forth. So every day, like Miss Latonya said, you have to change your method every single day. Every day is different. So you just grow as you go, So lastly, I was explaining to Ms. Mars too about the bedding. I am trying to purchase, enough towels from Sam's Club. I want to make my own sheets and pillows because, I can wash them. I can see the germs or the anything that's on the white bedding opposed to the green cot sheets, that type of thing. Every day is different. So I just go as I grow, and I call Ms. Mars a lot to support me in those areas.
Wow, I love the go as I grow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great motto to continue
Yeah.
to push through by. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anya, what about you?
Wow, I think everyone has kind of covered everything, but in a nutshell, for me, it's been the ongoing and constant changes to the environment, ensuring that the space is safe for children, in the way that we operate, the way that we allow families in our screening for staff, just making sure first and foremost that the environment that we're providing is safe. I have always considered myself a partner for my families, which means I work with them to make sure that their child is ready to go to the next level. It's definitely not, a babysitting service or a drop and go type thing. We definitely partner with our families. And I've seen throughout COVID that I have had to become the best partner that I could ever be. And that looks like I'm telling families where to find, the diaper bank, where they can go for rapid COVID testing, where they can go when they need assistance, sharing with them resources for financial assistance, for utility bills. We started a virtual learning program for the children, which was quite different. And for those of you that work with, 2 and 3 and 4 year olds, that that's difficult. But we had a very successful program when we were closed, and it just kind of morphed into a parent session. Our Friday meetings for the children turned into no children logging on, but all parents. And that was something that I didn't realize was needed, but that was something that, again, we had to pivot and say, there is a need for this, and parents needed to have that outlet and to be able to have someone that they could confide in and that they could trust with. So I think more than anything, being that partner, but knowing how and when to extend grace. Sometimes as business owners, we have our own set of operating procedures. We have rules and regulations, and we have to know when it's okay to bend and to be flexible and to extend that grace to families when they need it, and to look at things on an individual basis. What fits one family may not work or fit for the other. So it's maintaining that flexibility and extending that grace.
Thank you. Latonya and Lakeisha, I have a follow-up question for you. And the question is, what business factors most heavily influence you and your business ability to recover from the pandemic? So what are the factors that will influence you most as you're recovering? So thinking about things like low enrollment or other things, what are the business factors that you think are going to influence you most as we, fingers crossed, as we move out of the pandemic? Latonya, I'll let you go first.
I think moving through and out of and even before the pandemic, for me, it's the bottom line. It's the bottom line. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Yes, I'm here to support the community. Yes, I'm here to provide care. I'm here to be a partner, but everything is going to impact the bottom line. Low enrollment is going to affect what flows through to the bottom. Increased spending for PPE, increased spending for cleaning supplies, for thermometers, everything that's needed to operate in COVID, that flows through to the bottom line. So if the enrollment is low and I have all these extra expenses in the middle, that's where the tough decision, has to come in. Does it financially make sense to stay open and to operate? So it's, it's the bottom line. It's the bottom line.
Thank you. I see a heart there from Miss Brandy. Lakeisha, how about you?
Just as Ms. Latonya said, does it make sense to stay open with low enrollment? Even with my enrollment, you have parents that they're switching jobs, periodically. They can't, keep one job, and they're moving from job to job to support their family. So having full enrollment still does not mean I'm going to stay in business. I could prepare food, my PPE, my screening, and nobody shows up for the day. Even today, I thought that I would have 6 children, and I didn't think I would be able to join you guys today. That family didn't call me, didn't contact. She lost her job. you know, so it was just ironic that she lost her job the day that, you know, we were having this discussion about moving forward. So like Ms. Latonya said again, that bottom line is it even worth it, you know, at this point? But in the back of my mind and where I come from, you know, I was raised with Head Start. Do I give up on my families? You know, my children, you know, all went through Head Start. Do I give up on what I'm destined to do? So that's just, you know, where it is, that bottom line. Do we stay open? Is it cost effective? I'm spending more money trying to stay open than I'm actually making.
So thank you. I am gonna build off of that question, but I think I'm gonna ask all four of our panelists. So as we think ahead, and so we're talking about the bottom line, but as we think ahead and we don't know how much longer, we don't know how things will look tomorrow, much less, you know, next year. Is there anything that you've modified or thought about to ensure that you're as strategically ready as possible for whatever may come next? So that question's for Latonya and Lakeisha. For Jamie and Lorna, what are your thoughts about, you know, being able to think about what may come next and being able to be as ready as you can for that? Jamie, can I start with you?
Sure. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
What comes next is, I think both Lakeisha and Latonya have pointed out, it's Head Start. I mean, early Head Start was already a shoestring budget. So adding a pandemic onto it where they have no control, whereas at least before they had a little bit of control of kind of how enrollment happened, how the capacity looked, and how they could do their marketing. But now you're talking about something where they have absolutely no control, nor do they have any real repercussions of how they're going to be able to get additional funding and what that looks like. Because again, this is an industry where trying to get numbers from private business owners and getting them to give that to you in a way so it could be used statistically, very difficult. Because again, everybody's situation is different. So home is totally different from group is different from center. And then depending on exactly how they choose to use their curriculums and put their information out there to say that they're high quality service, that takes a different number too. So what is it going to look like? I honestly don't know. I've been running numbers for the last year about this, and Latonya was gracious enough to share with me some of hers. And it's almost like it's startup again. So if you're not going to come with the creativity and the agility and innovation and that same energy to know that you're going to have to push again to make this thing go the way that you want it to go, whether it's been a year that you've been open or whether it's been 20 years, that push is still going to have to be there in order if you really want this thing to work for you. I will tell people all day, I think everybody that I know that is in early childcare can get past this. I honestly believe that. But it's all based on your creativity, it's based on your ingenuity, and it's based on you. It's based on how much of a push do you really want to do in order to make this happen. And then I'm there in the background to help you with the numbers to make sure whatever that looks like and that it matches the budget that you want to have, and make sure that the expenses and your income looks the way it needs to look. But then also remembering it's a business. And at the end of the day, I know you love the parents and I know you love the children, but it's a business. And you have to charge based off of what you're providing. It can't be just what you assume that parent can afford. It has to be based off of what you're presenting. Because you go to any store, you don't get to negotiate the price of any item that you have. Why are you negotiating something that you're offering that's a lifetime skill? That's all I got to say. Go ahead, Ms. Lorna.
Awesome. And I like that business aspect of it, because now for me, for the educational piece, I would like to see my providers equipped. Even though all this is going on, you never stop learning. You're constantly pivoting and, okay, I am here as a coach, and what we're doing, with the DELC program, we are pivoting by introducing virtual coaching. So we have a new platform that we will be using for coaching. I'm sure a lot of my providers enjoy in person, but this is much more fun and it's flexible. So it offers a lot of flexibility. Sometimes they will say, well, I'm up at 6:30 in the morning. I said, I'm not doing it at 6:30 in the morning, but I can do it at 7. Okay, so I'm up at 7. Okay, so what are you doing after work? I know you're super busy. So after work, choose a time and we can talk. And we have that one-on-one conversation that we can have, just talking about what's going on like we're doing now. And then we focus in on coaching. This is what you need to do. This is what you must do. So just keeping them prepared, preparing them educationally. I have one person that said, you know what? The things that I have learned, everything I learned in school, I basically forgot most of it. But now that you're coming back and you're showing me how to do these things, I'm remembering it. And it's like a rejuvenation for me. And I'm awakened and I want to impart this information to my students. So this is the piece that I am just thrilled about. Coaching my providers, because right now kids are not getting everything that they need to because of everything that's going on. But if you are prepared and you're working slowly through it, you know you're going to reach that finish line. Make sure that you are prepared so your children can be prepared.
Thanks, Lorna. Latonya, how about you? What are you doing, or what have you modified, or what are you doing to think about times to come and just being as prepared as possible? What have you set up?
I think for me, it's really made me focus in on my numbers even more, because a lot of times it's easy for us to operate and we know, what the goal is, but setting more goals, knowing what those numbers are, looking at that, making those decisions on a child by child basis and not, in groups or in sets. I think continuing to remain flexible, modifying, all of these things that we've had to modify, our procedures. A lot of the procedures that we've had to put in place for COVID, post-COVID, they will be staying. There have been some benefits that have come from it. I definitely like some of the things that we've implemented, but it makes you more aware. So being more aware, being more vigilant, knowing your numbers, operating your business, meeting your goals, and just continuing to, again, remain flexible. There's been every week we're, changing and adjusting lesson plans. Oh, this is, not COVID friendly. That's not COVID friendly. Or we're adjusting the way that we shop, the way that we purchase. That's not cost effective. We are rewriting contracts. We're, creating COVID response plans. We're updating those response plans. So I think it's really still, more of the same, remaining flexible, remaining vigilant, and knowing that, this is something that no one knew was coming, but it's here. And it doesn't look like it's going away, especially with the numbers surging. So we have to continue to say, how can I continue to still operate in that same spirit of excellence, provide the quality care that is needed, but at the same time, maintain my business and make sure that I'm profitable. So it's all lessons learned. It's all lessons learned. And we have to just make sure that we get those lessons and that we react to them. And not allow ourselves to become sucked into what could be the negativity. We have to find a way to remain positive and to share that positivity. And that's in everything, in every aspect of how we operate our business.
Thank you. Lakeisha.
Yeah, so what's next? It looks like there's going to be, another shutdown. So again, Ms. Jamie said that no matter what we're facing, the goal is to stay in business. So we have, myself, I've gotten a lot of support from, the department with the grants, to support the families with the 30% off, but it still does not compensate for the amount of money, that's going out. So again, what's next for me? I'm trying to decide if shutting down temporarily until we figure out what's next, even for the school-age children, whether they're going to do hybrid or whether we're going to stay virtual. With my son being here with me, it's a little different because I'm trying to separate him from, from daycare, and it's really just not working. So I want to stay in business, but at this point, it's just looking like what's next is me possibly closing down if I can't get, the support that I need to possibly, rent a building, or, to take the daycare out of my home. Ms. Mars and I spoke about the implementation of the curriculum. The focus is gone. I can't really focus on, implementing the high scope curriculum right now because I'm too focused on sanitation and, and again, what's going to happen tomorrow? Again, like I said, with my family, tonight, that was a family of 5. That's one parent with a family of 5. So that's my entire afternoon group. So what do I do? So as I'm here and I'm listening to everybody's perspective. That's the only thing that's in my head. What happened with this family and what's going to happen next week, So.
Thanks, Lakeisha.
Welcome.
So I have one question that will lead us into then questions from our participants that I already see a couple have populated. And that question is for each of the panelists. And that question is, if you were able to advocate, it could be to business, it could be to policymakers, to families, you decide who, but if you were able to advocate for one thing, what is that thing you would advocate for your business? Lakeisha.
Financial support. I don't want to sound like it's begging, but we need that financial support for ourselves, one, to continue to operate, to continue to offer the parents the 30% tuition discount, continuing education. There's various things that I could use that financial support for. I wasn't able to be a part of like the SBA loans. There were a lot of things, and there were so many different loans. You didn't want to, grab onto too many. The guidelines and the stipulations, they meshed together. You couldn't get one without the other, or if you got one, you could, that type of thing. So I'm advocating for financial support, to get some staff in here to support me, with the 12 children that I currently have enrolled. And that's basically it. It's that financial support that I need to move forward.
Miss Brandy gives you a round of applause on that one. Latonya, what about you? What would you advocate for?
Woo. I definitely agree with Lakeisha. I think for me, it's a little bit different. What I would be advocating for would be a restructuring of how the finances are allocated. There is so much work that goes into early childhood education. There is so much effort that goes into providing high quality programs. And we always hear about the programs and the benefits for children that are at or below the poverty level, because we want to support those that need it the most. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. However, I don't think there is enough funding or support to provide providers, first and foremost, with what they need to provide quality care and have that balance and the equity for providers that are providing care for people that are in the inner city. A provider that is, in Birmingham or in Rochester Hills is not going to face the same issues and challenges that I'm going to face on the east side of Detroit. They're just not. Their ask may be different, and they may be able to get that from their private pay clients. But you want me to have rates and quality, that is top level, but you want me to have rates that the people that are at or below the poverty level can afford. That kind of puts me in the same boat with them. I need to be at or below the poverty level, and that's not fair. When I'm providing the same service, how do we get to that level of equity so that if I'm in Rochester and my tuition here is, $250 a week, and I am a 5-star rated childcare home, and my parents can pull up and pay that all day and don't need a DHS subsidy. But I'm here on the east side of Detroit and my tuition is $175 and they're struggling to pay that. But if we're both providers that receive subsidy, we're receiving the same amount of subsidy. So there needs to be a change there. And if we're saying that we want to help families that are at or below the poverty level, but we don't provide opportunities for families that may be at the threshold above it. How do we help those families that are struggling and working hard to get out of the poverty level? So when they make $2 more, they don't qualify for assistance. So how do they then afford quality care for their children? It's almost as if they're being penalized for trying to not be at or below the poverty level. So we need to come up with a solution that's going to provide maybe a tiered structuring, and that may not look the same way, but there may need to be some financial support that's provided to families as well as providers based on their needs and then the equity and what it is that they need. It's not a one size fits all like we have right now. There would be great to see additional scholarship opportunities offered. I'm also a Detroit source provider, which means families who are not able to qualify for subsidy can receive financial assistance to help to afford quality programs and to have quality care for their children, because why should they be excluded because they make $30 a month too much? So definitely there needs to be a restructuring and looking at things that are there to benefit people, not just to provide a need right now, but to give them something that they can grow. Do you think that they want to stay at that poverty level? No, they don't. But we're only offering to you if you're at that poverty level, and that's not right.
Thank you. Lorna, what would you advocate for?
The same thing she's advocating for.
Thanks, Lorna. I see Miss Brandy getting a round of applause for you too. We're all voting, clapping around that one.
Absolutely. It made so much sense. Lowering that poverty level would be awesome. And like you said, you know, where's the equity? There is no equity there. So you definitely have to restructure the way things are now in order for all of us to survive. So that was pretty powerful, Latonya. I really like that. So I'm piggybacking off her. I'm with her all the way.
Thumbs up. Second that motion. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks. How about you, Jamie?
Well, you know, I'm coming from a different place. No, it's still the same thing. For me, it would be systematic, though. I would love for them to be in the Department of Ed. They are the foundation of education. So I would love to see that their money comes from that pot versus Health and Human Services. Because we all know that the minute that anything happens to Health and Human Services, that's normally the first one that's cut. Education normally isn't. So I think if you're asking them to be degreed individuals, to be licensed, to have curriculums, to actually do continuous professional development, you're asking them to stay abreast of an industry, then they need to have the same compensation that the other industries that actually they mimic. Actually, I'm sorry, they make sure that the children are prepared and ready to go into their industry. So why are they not compensated the same way that those particular teachers and school systems are actually, because they are part of the school system. So I'm not understanding why they don't receive the money that the school systems get per child, just like everybody else does. Yeah. So I would say from a systematic standpoint, but it goes in alignment with what they all have been saying, which is it is a support mechanism funding wise, but I want to see it more, I want to see it systematically done correctly. I don't want to see subsidy. I want it to be per child, just like it is when the child goes to kindergarten and they go to a facility that's being paid by my tax dollars. I want it to be the same thing. I want that provider to receive that same amount of money that if I sent my child up the street to the elementary school, that if I sent them to Latonya or Lakeisha or anybody or Miss Brandy, they're going to receive that same pot of money so they can have an equal playing field when it's time to get that child educated and be prepared. That's just me.
Thanks, Jamie. I see Miss Brandy is clapping. I think she maybe did a cheer, jumped up and down. Lots of claps, a round of applause. Okay, so we're going to open it up to questions. So if you're on Zoom, you can type questions in the chat box. If you're on Facebook, you can type your questions and they'll get to me as well. The first question is, with so many changes, where do you go to get advice, guidance on how to navigate the pandemic in terms of safety, financial help, etc.? I'm thinking this is for Latonya and Lakeisha, but then if Lorna or Jamie had an answer as well. Latonya, do you want to go first?
Sure. That's tough. We go everywhere. I think for me, the biggest thing that came out of COVID was during the time that we were closed, there was lots of trainings. There was lots of provider network meetings. And so we really learned to become a village or a tribe and to lean on each other and to say, hey, where did you find this? Where did you do this? Or did you see these new rules and regulations? What did you think of that? Let's jump on a Zoom. I spent the whole shutdown on Zoom, but let's jump on a Zoom and let's talk through this thing. Does this make sense? Or how can we do this? Or how can we facilitate this in our programs? Because what it may look like for me may not look the same for you. So I think it was a lot of, again, more partnerships with other providers, partnerships with families, even a partnership. I maintain very close communication with my licensing consultant. My consultant is awesome. And so I maintain close communication with her on guidance for the rules. I was in a Facebook provider group where we met every Wednesday morning. That is where I met and hooked up with Jamie. And that was awesome because there was a lot of different people that were in that group. And we really had to kind of lean into each other to get that information. You know, we have to always, as educators, be lifelong learners. And this was no different. We had to, you know, learn in that pandemic, and we're still in the pandemic and we're still learning, but not being afraid to reach out and connect. Sometimes as providers, there is some secrecy because you don't want to give away all your program secrets. You don't want to share all of your numbers. But in this, there was a benefit in it. And I'm so grateful for, you know, the providers that came along and the early childhood educators that I connected with, the groups, Michigan NACI, Black Family Development. There's so many. I could name a list of people that I connected with to support that I would have never, you know, those aren't people that I would have talked to on a regular basis prior to the pandemic. So it has definitely expanded my network and my mindset and just keeping me in that moment of learning.
Awesome. How about you, Lakeisha?
I'm having some problems here, but I'm here. The same thing, being able to, during that time, being able to connect with other providers, where whether it was, you know, with my coach or with groups on Facebook, my consultant as well, she sent things periodically, you know, to support the ongoing trainings, you know, with Laura, resources from some of my parents that work in education. So being able to finally get the opportunity to connect and learn some new strategies, techniques, you know, things to do, all while preparing to reopen, you know, with COVID. So it's basically, you know, the same thing. Being able to, again, and then like with you guys, Ms. Mars, you know, she offered, I got email after email, you know, to support me through that time. Ms. Mars came by one day. It was a really rough week. She came by with a beautiful basket full of books for the children, tea makers, even a gift card to Myers. So again, just being able to connect with the community and my own kind, you know, home providers, center providers, to get more knowledge on what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, you know, in the proper way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have one more question for Lorna. Lorna, they are asking, how do providers get involved with coaching?
Oh, we're online. We're on Facebook, Delcy. We're also on ecic.com. I'm sorry, .org. So, and if you just want, I don't know all our numbers, but I can give you my phone number because each coach has a different number. So it's 313-230-5199. And I can definitely talk with you.
Thank you. Don't see, oh, there is another question, one for Jamie.
Mhm.
Jamie, what's the most frequent piece of advice, I like this question, that you've given childcare providers since the pandemic began?
I'm gonna act like I'm frozen first, hold on. The one piece of advice I have been giving consistently has been, look at your numbers. Because at the end of the time, that's why she's mumbling it. Because ultimately, even before the pandemic, you needed to know that. Because how can you efficiently run a business and not understand what's at stake? I told even my previous providers and those that know me well, I told them there's going to come a time when the state or the nation is going to ask you, what is it that you need? And you're not going to be able to respond. And lo and behold, COVID hit, and Michigan was asking, as well as the nation, what do we need? What is the number that we need to give in order to help them get out of this predicament? And no one can give the answer. So my one advice that I give everybody every time is know your numbers. I don't mean intimately. I just mean have an understanding. What is it going to take for your business to flourish? Because only you know what your comfort level is. So is it going to be an additional 500 a month that's comfortable for you? Or is it an additional 10,000? What are you going to do to make sure one of those numbers are happening for you and your family? Only you get to judge that because you are the business owner.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I don't see any other questions. So I think now what we'll do is we'll move into the presentation, and that will be Jamie and myself. And I'm just going to share the PowerPoint. All right. And so I think, Jamie, I'll let you go first.
So since the last question talked about numbers, we get to do the fun thing that I like to do. So Tanya's laughing, Brandy's laughing, because they know this is where I flourish. Although you wonderful providers that you have the love and the passion for the children, I have the love and passion for numbers. So now we're going to do an example. So Mary's Little Lamb is a program. You don't know her. We're not going to judge her. And we're just going to go on this adventure with Mary's Little Lamb. So her program is able to have 77 children in it. We're only going to talk about one of her rooms, not all of them. We're going to talk about this one preschool room that currently has 30 children in it. Well, I'm sorry, the capacity. Let's be clear. So we're going to do the difference between capacity and enrollment. Her capacity is 30, but her current enrollment is 17. She's bringing in about $8,500, but her expenses is $10,000. So I'm just going to ask one person to sit in the chat and tell me what the problem right now, based off of what you see. I haven't even given you anything else. I told you don't judge her, but I need you to assess her. That's different. Judging is different. Assessing her. I need you to assess this. So tell me immediately, what do you see is the issue with what you're currently being presented with? 77 in her total program. 30 is the capacity for this childcare room that we're talking about, the preschool room. She currently has 17. Her income is $8,500, but her expenses is 10. Okay, Sherry said not enough money.
No, not enough.
That is true. Anything else? Anybody else can see before I give you more insight?
In the chat, they say numbers and income is less than expenses. Miss Brandy says she is not charging enough.
That Brandy, stop cheating. That's because Brandy knows my situation. She knows how I try to trick people. So in that, yes, you're absolutely right, Brandy. She is not charging enough, because I was going to tell you her average tuition for that particular classroom is only $500 per month.
Oh.
Which means she's only pulling down $125 per week for those children. So if we go to the next slide.
Okay, Megan.
Okay.
I don't know why it's not working. There.
Okay. So This is just a quick, and just like I said, this is just for you all, for kicks and giggles, because I know none of you all are doing this. As I pause again, as if I'm frozen. Her preferred capacity for this classroom is 30%, but her shared expense of the total enrollment, and this, when I say shared expense of total enrollment, I'm going to explain this to you, is 39%. The way you get that number is you take her total enrollment by that one classroom. So 39% of her entire center is coming from this one classroom. So that's both expenses and her income. Got it? Right now, she's fully enrolled with just the 17 kids, with a monthly tuition that she's pulling down of $500, which gives her the $8,500 for the month for her, from her 17 kids. Lisa's having fun.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So then when we look over to the childcare wages and benefits, we already know for Michigan, she has 17 kids in the classroom. So her ratio, she has to have 2 people in there, even though there's only 17 kids. But because she's one child over the ratio, she has to have that extra person. So here we have the $4,900 that she's paying 2 people to be in this classroom with 17 kids. Then her center overhead, which is the capacity of the total number, so that's everything, so that's other expenses that don't necessarily equate to this classroom, is $5,100. So that could be utilities, that could be her mortgage, that could be PPE, that could be supplies, that could be the cook, anything else that's going to go into the running that classroom. That's another expense. So the total expenses, $10,000. So we already know that the numbers are not looking good for her because she's only bringing in 85, but her total expenses is 10. So you have to figure out what is the number that's going to make her break even. And that's where I always, that's the fun number for me. So she needs 20 kids in this classroom in order to just to break even, just to make sure she's not losing money, but she's also not gaining money. So anything above 20 is all profit. So the last question that the person asked was, what's the one thing I give advice on, or why I focus on it? This is why I focus on numbers, because I want you to be sustainable and profitable, because it's a business. Yes, it's your passion. Yes, it's education, but you're also running a business. And I want to make sure that at the end of the day, when you're tired of running your business, you're able to retire. You're able to either franchise it out. You're able to be a coach or a mentor like Ms. Lorna, and you're able to just now you know what your net worth is, so you can sell your business, because you now understand how much it took to do what you're doing and how much does it take for somebody else to do it and buy it from you. But if you don't know your numbers, I can't tell you that. Only you would be able to gauge what your business is worth. So that was my enrollment example. Do I have any questions behind the enrollment example and why numbers are so prevalent that you must look at them?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, never mind. It's not a question. It's a note for me. The reason I messed up is I can't see the other, I was trying to figure out how to see the other chat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can only see this chat. Oh, nope, never mind. Wow, okay.
Sorry, Lisa.
Okay, that's okay. Whoever's been writing, if anybody's writing Facebook questions, we'll get to it at the end. We'll have a moment to have questions answered again. Okay, so as we look at staffing and enrollment and we're thinking about what the concerns are, one of the concerns that I've heard quite a bit is about not having enough staff. Staff are afraid, or staff have children that are at home schooling. And so I'm hearing a lot of programs talking about the fact that they don't have enough staff. And so Jamie and I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about that concern specifically, because if you don't have enough staff, then you can't get the number to that sweet number that at least breaks you even, right? And so what we know about hiring, first of all, is that it's complex. I think if you add up the amount of time it takes you to post it, to call back people, to do interviews, multiple interviews, and then if you watch them in the classroom, the amount of time that it takes away, plus you're trying to fill in for them while you're making the hire. It is a lot of time. And so as we think about staffing, we just want to be able to talk a little bit more about why staffing is important and some of the best ways to get the right staff and then keep them. I'm trying to move the slide and it's not moving again. I'll try it this way. There we go. So in this case, the area that we wanted to be able to talk about was turnover of staff. This is the concern I'm hearing quite a bit. Before COVID, so not now, but before COVID, the 30% was the average rate of turnover in childcare. That is 4 times higher than the 7% found with elementary teachers. 30%. So I imagine with COVID and hearing about teachers being afraid to go back or them needing to stay with their own families, that number is probably much higher. But one of the things that I like to talk about, and one of the things that I'm passionate about, is that so often when we look at turnover, we think about pay or we think about benefits. As owners of programs, we think, oh, if we could just pay a little bit more, if we had a little bit better benefits, more time off, any of those things, then teachers are going to stay. I'm not going to have the turnover that I have. But really, there's a lot of research out there that shows that that it's not just pay and benefits. There's a lot to say for the way that a person feels when they're there. And so I would have you imagine if you start in a program, it's your first day, they say welcome, and then you get thrown into a classroom. You're working with the 2-year-olds. Here's the other teacher that you're working with. Good luck. I'm pretty sure nobody does that. But really, if you don't feel like you have adequate preparation for the work that you're doing, that includes things like understanding, who is this program that I'm working for? Who is the teacher that I'm working with? Who are these children? Like how, what are some of their personalities, and what can I expect from behavior? What about the families? Where do I find pertinent information I need to know? Emergency information, allergy information, medication information. So that preparation takes time. And when staff don't feel prepared for the work that they're doing, then they're ready to leave before they're even, they're a month, because they don't feel like they have that. In addition, if they don't feel like they have support once there, so if there's challenging behavior, is there somebody that they can go to? If they're having problems with a family, a parent, is there somebody that they can go to? Who's there to support them and have their back? If they're having issues, challenging working conditions with the co-teacher, so that sense of I have support, I know who to go to. Sense of isolation is another issue that I hear. If they feel like, especially if they feel like, so you hired them for, this is shout out to center programs. If you hire them for the 2-year-old classroom, but then there's lower enrollment there, and so then they get moved to the 4-year-old classroom another day, and maybe they're in another classroom another day, and that's all for the bottom line. So I hear Jamie, and I get all of that. But if they feel like they're isolated and they haven't really been in one classroom and had a sense of the classroom that they're supposed to be working in, that makes them feel devalued, and also just like they don't have a space. So all of those things are the reasons that teachers, those are reasons from research that teachers say they leave. Pay might be a piece of it, but if they feel prepared, if they feel supported, and if they feel like they're valued and their voice is valued, and that they're, and then they're more likely to stay. It's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the coaching initiative in Detroit, because the role of the coaching initiative is to really step in when administrators don't have time, to be able to provide support to teachers, to providers, to be able to help them to feel that they've got somebody else also who has their back and that they can go to ask for support.
And Lisa, if I can add,
Yeah.
just like you said with the coaching aspect, at the beginning when you actually talked about it, 30% of the rate of the turnover, again, I'm going to point it back to numbers just so you all can understand why we did the example at the beginning, is because, again, it ties into that, because time equates to your money. So if you're not going to spend the adequate time preparing individuals for the classroom and for your business, then understand what that means for your business. If you're not going to take the adequate time if you're going to take time to interview them, observe them, and then throw them in the classroom and then not do anything else with them, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're not setting them up, you're setting yourself up. Because again, they're coming into your business and you're supposed to model exactly what it is that you want them to do on your behalf, because they are now the face for you. So keep that in mind when, like Lisa was talking about, the inadequate preparation, the lack of support, the working conditions, sense of isolations and feeling devalued. All of that goes into how are you feeling about your own business and how are you adequately preparing yourself to make sure that you're going to be a good mentor coach for whoever your new employees are, or whoever you're going to pay to do that particular piece for you if it's not you.
Yeah. I think this next slide says exactly what you're saying, that higher turnover rates are truly linked to lower quality services. And I know we all, as childcare programs, are striving to be the highest quality we can. And stability is a significant determinant of teacher quality. And so being able to be in a place and grow, that was a word that I know Latonya and Lakeisha both used, that idea that we want teachers to grow, and stability is a space where they can grow. It's also where your business can grow, because when the teachers are there, then you have the chance to build the business and the relationship with families and with the children. All right, I think the next slide is yours, Jamie.
So again, we just talked about this a little bit. So direct costs, I want you to look at it again in a different lens, because again, you all are business owners. So I can't talk to you like Lisa talks to you. Lisa gets to talk to you in a coachable, and Lorna gets to talk to you in a coachable manner. I get to be, there's no shades of gray, it's really black or white with me. So we're going to do that again. So direct costs include your recruitment, your selection, your training of new staff. That's something immediately that's tangible, that you know for a fact that you can see walk out the door if you watch a person just leave and or they don't even give you 2 weeks notice. They just walk out the door and just never return, because we've had that too. Whereas then you have the indirect costs, which is the increased workloads for reaming your staff, including your administrator, your overtime, reduced productivity associated with low employee morale. Those things you don't really see, because you don't see that until the person is gone. But some of you actually, particularly center home, you are, because you're such a tight knit, you get to see exactly how people operate, because you're a lot closer together. So you can tell when when you're coaching, when your peer is off, and you can immediately have a conversation at nap time and get each other back together. Whereas in a center, and centers, yes, I am picking on you all, it's a little different. You can hide. People can hide their emotions, they can hide their attitudes, they can hide their disgruntledness, they can hide, because again, it's only 2 people in the classroom. And if me and the person in the classroom are cool, but me and the other people in all the other classrooms or the administrator, I can hide that for as long, but I could also become, I could be that scent that you don't really want in your business, where I'm now going to be negative about everything that I see. That's the indirect costs, because now that person is affecting everything around you. It has become a disease. And what you don't want is that disease to continue flourishing. And now it's affecting other people in other classrooms. And that's an indirect cost, because now you have people that are calling in, they're coming in late, or they're coming in tardy, and they're giving you excuses, not explanations. They're giving you straight up excuses. So now you have to make a decision as a business owner, whether or not is this person worth me doing the training, or calling, Ms. Lorna or Lisa in to say, please help her, because she needs Jesus or something, because she needs help. Or is it more of, it's gotten so bad because you ignored it, or you didn't realize it had gotten that bad, that now you have to almost clean staff. You have to clean your entire house because it's just that much going on. And then it becomes a direct cost. So what you don't want is the direct cost and indirect cost to keep spiraling out of control. So like what Lisa was pointing out, if you handle that up front with that whole recruitment, I'm going to tell everybody, I'm going to say this again. Recruitment and selection is all you. If you don't do that right, or if you're kind of hesitant of what that looks like, have a conversation. Lisa, Lorna, me, we are all available. Have a conversation, because that's the heartbeat for telling somebody how to value your business, is how you recruit and select them. Training, that's also all you. Because again, you're going to train them how to treat you in your business, how to treat you in your families, how to treat you and your children. Because again, there's no job that we go on the job and we walk in and we say, woo, I am here and I'm about to do this job really great. Nobody goes on the job and does that. You have 30 days and they take you through their training. They take you through the training, the orientation. You figure out if that's a good feel for you or not. Somebody's checking up with you. Somebody's doing supervision with you. They're having conversations with you. They might even set you up with a mentor to make sure that you're okay. And then at the end of 30 days, you have a conversation to say, now you've had the training, you've had the orientation. Are you good? Is this for you? Do you think you want to do this long term? Because I need to know this, because I'm investing in you. But if you're not having those kind of conversations, then understand you're setting yourself up sometimes. I'm not going to say some people are crazy, because I have met some of them, that you go through all of that and they still are just two types of crazy that you could not recognize that they were going to do what they did to your business. It just doesn't. It's not, I'm not going to say that it's going to be a magic pill, but I think after you do it so long and you know what you're looking for, because you have goals, you have values, you have a vision, you have objectives. If you share those things and they don't share it.
I think this goes into what you were going to say next too.
Go ahead. So retention, that's what it is. So once you figure out exactly how that goes, I saw something in the chat that said, they will leave from McDonald's and Target because they're paying for $15. That's true. I'm going to be honest with you. That is possibly true. But my question to you then, is that the person that you wanted? Right. If they're driven by money and not the passion for children, is that who you want in your program? So let's look at the retention strategies. So your strategic onboarding process should be a detailed plan. You need to tell them exactly what they're going to do that first week and even that first month. So that way they're very clear in how intentional you are about your business and about how these children are going to be educated by people in your organization. A clear career path. That's one that I keep hearing. I forgot we did mention that earlier when she said that what obstacles, that's an obstacle, because nobody really tells them once you're outside of being an assistant teacher, they just know you go to a teacher. And then it just like stops. And that is so not true. Give them a real career path. If they want to be like you, then show them what it means to be a director, what it means to be an owner, what it means to be an educational coach, what it means to be, there are so many things that they could do outside of just being an assistant teacher or a teacher. Give them a clear path. Perks for employees. Find out what they really want. I need y'all to stop assuming you know everything that a person wants. You are not a genie, nor am I. So don't do that to them. Give them a survey. Simply ask, what are some of the things you like? And surprise them sometimes. So it could be as simple as some socks. I told Lisa and them, they laughed at me. I had one lady who liked stickers. She literally just likes stickers. I'm giving her gift cards. I'm giving her days off. And all she wanted was some darn stickers that I picked up from the dollar store. And all she did is all she wanted to do was just spread joy around the office to other people, because that's what she was doing with her stickers. She was giving it to other people. But that was her way of encouraging others while she's encouraging herself. See, somebody said they love socks and stickers. So again, ask your employees what they want versus assuming that it's more money or it's time off. Ask them. It could be candles. It could be a flexible schedule. It could be food. I'm a foodie, so if anybody wants to send me a Cash App, I like food. Send that to me. Schedule raises. Everybody knows that the cost of living increases every year. So does minimum wage. Stop playing. That's why your numbers are important, because you have to schedule that. You have to budget in when you're going to give raises. So that $15 that somebody is going to target for, if you would have done your budget, you might have had the $15 to give them and they could have stayed with you. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know what your raises could be like. You don't know what you can actually offer someone. A relationship building culture, that's a big one. Again, home and group, you all would be able to build a culture a lot faster and a lot sooner because you're in a tight space together. You're in less than 600 square feet all the time. Again, in a center, people can hide. So if you're not having regular team meetings or you're not encouraging that type of work environment where they're talking, not just in a professional manner, but in a personal manner. Because again, we're spending 8 to 10 hours with individuals that we spend longer than we spend with our families. So if I'm not happy at work, understand I am not happy, because that is the vast majority of my day is with people that I have to like. I don't have to understand you. I don't have to respect you half the time, but I at least have to like you. So that way the work seems fun. It seems easy. Your attendance is different. Your engagement with parents is way different, because again, if I feel good about what I'm doing, it's going to emulate all and everything that I do. So I encourage all directors, and I'm even going to challenge teachers. I challenge y'all to challenge your directors to become more fun. You can have fun at work. So this is a quote that somebody gave me, but Lisa, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that if you could just remember that the key to your success is giving people what they want. And as Jamie said, it's very different than what you think they want. And it's really interesting because I really believe that we all have a different way. It's like a marriage or a friendship. How I show appreciation, what I think is appreciation isn't always what, so I'm just going to use a marriage example because I actually think working closely with somebody is very similar to a marriage, and except for you don't get to pick who you're working with. So in my marriage, maybe my husband may want to give me flowers, but really I just want him to do the dishes. And so here we are as owners or directors giving our staff, wanting to give our staff one thing when really all they want is something else. And so really asking and figuring out what they, what is their the thing that makes them happy and makes them feel appreciated will go a long way in getting you to where you, they know that you are watching them and that you appreciate them. I'm going to stop and see if I'm going to actually stop sharing so that I can also monitor if there are any questions that are in the on the Facebook chat. Jamie, there's a question. Does Jamie offer classes for center owners? And if so, how do we get connected to get more business strategies?
Absolutely. You can reach me at, this is a long one. If you're ready, get your pen. My name is Jamie, Jaimeo, as in Odester, at, this is where it gets long, sorry, First Children's with an S, finance.org. Or feel free to call me at 313-303-3787. And I'll add you to my distribution list when I actually send out information and or when I'm doing trainings. I'll add you to it.
Thanks. I do see that there was a note in here that I didn't catch earlier that Lachelle, and I don't know if Lachelle is still on here. Lachelle said that she actually recently had the issue. It came through, Jamie, during the time that you were talking about sort of, staff being angry when you're at a center, and so that it like digs deep. I don't know if Lachelle, let me see if I can figure out if Lachelle is on here still. Maybe, no. I don't know. I didn't know if she wanted to share a little bit more about that. Lachelle, if you're on here, can you
Oh,
Cheryl?
there she is.
Oh, I do, I see her. Are you able to unmute yourself and talk, Michelle?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, when Jamie was speaking, I could really relate to that. I have a 24-hour center, and I could not understand why when I hired new people on my afternoon staff, they wouldn't stay. I went through the whole entire orientation process, setting them up for training, doing different things like that. And I could not understand why after 30 days, after 60 days, they wouldn't even make it 90 days. And because it's afternoon, I didn't spend a lot of time on the afternoon program. Yes, I was there from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., but I wasn't there from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. So I really didn't see what was going on. But it came out later when one employee left. She said, you need to, pay attention to your afternoon supervisor. And it was actually her, that was causing all of this havoc on afternoons. And, I just assumed because she was there, she's been with us for 10 years, and during our staff meetings, she was doing a good job. And I just assumed everything was great. But after I started paying more attention, it was her. And, I forgot about the rest of the staff. On afternoons, I did my part, trained them, put them in classes, orientation, communicated with them. But after, they just would not make it past 90 days. And it was, it was really them. I was sending them to the program director if they had any issues. I was more focused on administration and getting more people into the center. But side of what was really going on with them, and it was one particular employee. So yes, I agree, we do really have to pay attention, to our staff and what's going on with them.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that one person can cause such, can wreak such havoc to cause people, I mean, that you were losing people so quickly, and it's because of one person. That's so crazy. But it happens, you hear about it happening all the time. And so absolutely checking in and just paying attention even at staff meetings on how people are interacting and how that's going plays a big part in, because maybe people are afraid to speak up, but you can see how they're interacting when they're together. And I think that plays a big part. Jamie, would you add anything else?
Get rid of the toxic people. No,
Exactly.
I'm sorry. Okay, let me rephrase, because somebody's going to say that and they're going to go back and try to clear their staff out. Let me clear that up. I always say everybody deserves grace. So what I would advise is do your due diligence. If you're not doing supervision, do supervision with people. So that way you have an understanding of where they are and how long it's going to take them to get there. And then you do your due diligence of that. So you have to do your own mentoring coaching before you let somebody completely go. Please.
Mm-hmm.